This is Bill's Camp Day Recap. I'm Thad Brown along with Caleb Carr, Rachel Liebert, the full combo. Back in house today for day number 4 at St. John Fisher, also known as day number 3, where we all got totally soaked. Rain was terrible, did not stop. Only rain, by the way, in Rochester, New York for the 2 hours where the Bills practiced and then like the hour afterward where we were doing work. But a lot to get to today. The Bills were in full pads, sorta. We will go through the full context of the fun uncle soundbite that everybody's talking about, plus we'll recap today's practice. Let's start with the main update, which is C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Not anything big newsworthy-wise or anything unusual. Joe Brady said that the Bills were fortunate. They got good news. He wouldn't give a timetable on when C.J. Gardner-Johnson would be available. He said, hey, guys, I'm not big on timetables, which we'll see how true that is in October when he's got injury reports he has to adhere to. But here in training camp, coaches can kind of do what they want with injuries. So, but bottom line, C.J. Gardner-Johnson is, in general, fine as expected. Now, today was the first day for the Bills in full pads, which is usually a big deal. It's the beginning of real football. Everybody gets to hit and tackle and all that stuff. However, Joe Brady decided that the Bills were not going to be in full pads, at least not for the whole practice. He said, and what the plan was, the Bills would go full pads for 7-on-7 and warm-ups and individuals and stretch. And then for team drills and for the rest of practice, they would take the pads off. Highly unusual. I've never seen it before from a training camp at Fisher. And here's how Joe Brady explained why he was doing this.
I've always been bothered by seeing coming out the first day of pads and everyone's just adjusting and kind of, thinking about all the pads as opposed to the detail, the physicality, the mindset of how we want to practice. And so today's more of the intentionality of let's wake up. We're coming off an off day. Let's wake up with the mentality that we got to put our pads on. Let's get used to it. Let's go out. Let's go through Indy. Let's do a 7-on-7 period, and then we'll take the pads off and go through the team. And then tomorrow it's time to roll.
Giving us that little, 30, 45 minutes in pads at first kind of gives us a moment to, make sure everything's fitting right, everything feels good, because sometimes first day of pads you put them on and something's wrong the whole day and it sucks. So now this way, you can kind of adjust some things, talk to the equipment guys and get it fixed before we actually do a full day of pads.
So give me your reactions, guys. Like I said, I've never seen this before. It's not a huge deal. It's one day. It's like half a day, really. But Rachel, I'll go with you first. When you heard full pads, but only for half the day, what was your take?
It's very interesting. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, to be honest, because I feel like inevitably when you put the pads on, you're going to be adjusting them, day 1 or even day 2 or 3. So to have them on for half a day, I guess like slowly introducing it maybe makes some sense, like Dawson Knox said, but I don't know. It just feels like this is inevitably like just what comes with putting on pads and getting back into the rhythm of football season. So I don't know. It just feels like a very tedious thing that maybe is unnecessary, but maybe it's beneficial for them. Who knows?
I definitely thought it was odd when I first heard it from Joe Brady. Listening to Dawson Knox after practice kind of talk about it, it started to make a little bit more sense. Like, okay, like maybe I can see like, hey, let's get comfortable. Let's do some stuff. Then let's focus on what we really need to focus on during team drills. And then we can kind of get more adjusted tomorrow at the beginning and go from there. But I still just, I kind of agree with Rachel that it just seems like no matter what, when they put pads back on tomorrow, there's still going to be some adjustments that need to be made, even though they might be more minor than it would have been today. Like it's still going to have to happen at some point. You can't just do it all behind the scenes. So
I thought you made a great point when we talked about it during practice. You said, how do they get used to wearing pads? By wearing pads. Yeah. So like, how are you're going to get used to it by not using them? And these are professionals. Whatever adjustment period you think they would need, they probably should have had that by now. Does Deion Dawkins need an adjustment period to pads in year 10?
I would hope not.
That's what we were talking about on the side. It's like these guys have been wearing pads for like 15 years minimum, like most of them. So you wouldn't think that they would need to be getting back. I get it off season, but yeah, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
The other thing that Carl Jones said, our friend from Bills Kickoff Live and WIVB in Buffalo, that coaches are usually dying to get as many reps as you can into a practice. And Joe Brady essentially flushed a couple minutes and a few reps of practice because everybody had to take a couple minutes taking the pads off today. Now, in the grand scheme, this is not a huge deal, but it is just a weird, like, what with a new coach, everything's going to get scrutinized. And this falls very much under the headline of everything.
Yeah. He's just trying to put his mark on training camp, I guess. I'm not really sure, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's just kind of like, all right, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll forget about it by tomorrow.
Oh,
but
yeah.
today it's
I've
like,
already forgotten about it.
what are we talking about? No, yeah, but today it's like, what are we doing? Why is this a thing? And we're going to talk a little bit later, diving deep into the fun uncle comment and how that's sticking with Joe Brady. This is kind of part of that because he did make practice easier for his guys in a way that was kind of sort of unnecessary. Again, very small thing, but when we get into Fun Uncle, we'll talk about that a little more. First, let's talk about today's practice. And I want to start with Davison Igbinosun because this is a guy who slowly has been impressing me a little bit. The thing I liked about him today is when a receiver gets in his kitchen, like tries to get physical with him or runs a route that's short, not going across the field, either basically staying on his side of the field in his sphere, I guess, for lack of a better term, IGB does pretty well. I mean, I saw him today lock up Josh Palmer on a red zone route where Palmer was very much the first read. And Josh Allen was the quarterback, took a healthy look in Igbinosun's direction, said, nope, that ain't happening, and had to go to the other side of the field. So there's still things that you want to see Igbinosun get better at. But Caleb, today this is continuing a trend for me to where he's supposed to be a physical corner. And at least in that part of his game, it's been as advertised so far.
Yeah, I think up to this point, I've definitely seen some physicality out of him. I will say that, like, I think we mentioned this a couple times throughout practice today. They did mainly red zone stuff today. I think it's a little easier to be a little more physical and keep a guy in your kitchen, to kind of use what you said, when there's only 10 yards that the receiver has to work with. But either way, you still have to be able to do it, and he did it very well. It is concerning that it's not just that he's not as good when a guy's on a slant route or on a cross field flat route or something like that. It's bad. Like DJ Moore cooked him bad the other day. I think he got cooked once or twice again today. Like it's not just that he's not as good at it. He's bad at it.
Two caveats there. Number one, crossing routes are always hard for corners.
Yes.
Because basically the receiver knows he's going inside, the corner doesn't, and you got to chase him all the way across the field. B, the ones I've seen him lose bad on have only been DJ Moore so far. So now look, there are other receivers in the NFL who are DJ Moore's equal or better. Right. Yeah. But it isn't like he's getting whooped by, Jamori Macklin or someone who's down the depth chart so far.
Yeah, I mean, when I hear he's, doing well on some routes or getting beat on others, it's just kind of, this is what I expected out of him because he's a rookie. Call. And two, I mean, like you said, DJ Moore, if he's getting burnt by DJ Moore, I think that's kind of just what's going to happen as a rookie coming in. And even when the Bills drafted him, going back to that, we didn't think he was that great of a corner. I mean, he had a lot to prove. So even though he's been in this discussion of potentially starting over Harrison, which we know is probably not the case now, I mean, I think there is a lesser expectation in him, losing some of those battles, I think is to be expected, especially, day 4 of training camp.
Exactly what I was going to finish up with right there. Yeah. The idea that we're talking about this assessment of Davison Igbinosun. The Bills will play a game for a month. There's going to be a lot more of a development period and a runway for him to potentially get better. Speaking of rookies who are okay-ish to start camp, Skylar Bell is another one we talked about quite a bit. Now, first 2 or 3 days, I think the conversation in this room has been, every time I look up, every fourth play, I see 13 running open. Today I got to watch him a little bit more, just not that I was in particular trying to focus on him. It just happened that when I saw the Bills open in a formation, I said, okay, I'm going to watch 13 on this play. There were a number of times where he would get ISO'd against defensive backs and try and run either a whip route or something short and jukey and just go nowhere. And this isn't against Igbinosun or Hairston or Benford. This is against, let me check my notes here, DJ Miller and Jordan Dunbar, both locked up Skylar Bell today.
That's a little bit concerning.
Yeah. Oh, this is the point I'm making. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't really watched him completely by himself as much as you did today, but the flashes that I've seen of him, you're right, he has been open, and Caleb and I talked about this last week, that he's been open, but he hasn't been targeted a lot, but now it's making sense as to why he's not being targeted, because he's not getting free. I mean, I feel like this is a rookie that you expect more of, compared to Igbinosun. I say we maybe expect a little bit less out of him. This is a rookie that I would expect a little bit more of, especially when you're going up against, DBs that are 4th, 5th stringers, names that we don't even really recognize. So I think you definitely want to see more out of a guy that has these high expectations. But too, going back to the point of day 4 of training camp, I think that's something that he'll work into.
I think I've said this a few times now, and I think this is kind of the perfect example of, remember, this is a receiver that's coming out of UConn. It's not a big football school. He's not used to going up against this insane competition. I think he still has the athleticism. He still has the skill. it's not going to pop off in day 4 of training camp. Like I'm not surprised that we're not seeing a whole ton out of him yet. And I don't think, I think I've said this a couple times, I don't think we're going to see a whole ton out of him for the first few weeks. I think by the second half of the year, he's going to start to learn. He's going to start to grow. I saw him multiple times getting pulled aside, talking with Josh Allen, talking with Joe Brady. From what I can tell, which is from the sideline, obviously, but from what I can tell, he's talking a lot with the coaches and the guys, and he's soaking up a lot. It seems like he's getting a little bit better every day. This isn't a guy that's just going to be beating cornerbacks from day one. I think it's going to take him some time to really get used to it, but he has the athleticism to get there.
I don't know if he does, because the Khalil Shakir book for me has always been he's really good against zone. He's smart. He can find open space, but he's just not going to beat a corner one-on-one. And those guys get drafted in round 5, or in Skylar Bell's case, lower in round 4. Mm-hmm. He just, and maybe going to UConn is evidence of what his limits are physically. He just may never be a guy who can do that. And that's not even to say, that's not to say he can't play. That's just to say this will be one limit on his game. He's going to have to find a way to be productive in other ways, like Khalil Shakir has done very, very well over his career. I think the difference with Moore is that, or with Bell, I'm sorry, is that I wasn't quite sure he'd be this limited physically. I think Shakir, that was kind of the book on him. With Bell, at least early in camp, the fact that he's, to Rachel's point, losing the 4th and 5th stringers, that's a bit of a concern that, all right, this may not even be available in his game.
I still think that it is available. I still think he can be more of a downfield threat than Shakir is, like when he gets there.
To be fair, I was talking about 4 and 5 yard routes, not stop and goes, not post. Those things he might be better with.
Yeah. I do think he's going to be a little bit better of a downfield threat. I just don't think it's going to, like, I know we're not seeing it right now. I think it's going to take some time for a guy like him. Like, I think it's going to take a minute.
I agree. I mean, I think too, the receiver room, at least in the case of looking at DJ Moore in comparison, I mean, what the pass catchers right now have looked decent at training camp, even when you go into the tight end room. So I think Skylar Bell maybe has just fallen back in the, he isn't at the forefront of what this receiving core really looks like. I do agree that I feel like he is behind and needs to be making some more plays, but to Caleb's point, I think he will get there, and I think it's just about kind of that learning curve that he's kind of in right now.
The things that he can get better at are the things that he probably would need to learn, to be fair. The stuff we talked about with dissecting zone and finding space, stuff like that. Speaking of pass catchers, 2 of the bigger name ones, DJ Moore, kind of a quiet day overall today, but did have a very nice touchdown where Josh Allen scrambled for a long time. It was classic, like midseason playground Josh. You don't see it in Fisher too often. And DJ Moore stayed with his quarterback, found his space, big time touchdown. Dalton Kincaid, on the other hand, some good, some bad. Rachel, you can go either way with one of those 2 guys.
I thought it was, for Dalton Kincaid's case, I mean, he looked pretty decent. We know that he had the one catch in the kind of the back of the end zone. It was a good play. But his family.
That's right. He went down. I had to put that in. So
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Just so people know, he did get injured and have to step out of practice for a little while. Explain later that he got hit in the family jewels. So I don't think we need any further explanation, except that
he's okay.
He's okay. Right.
He's okay. That's all that matters. Yeah. I mean, I agree that he was inconsistent. He did have that one play, and then DJ Moore is kind of just, he only also had that one play, but he's looked consistent, and that's really all you can ask out of him at this point.
The reason I've got Kincaid inconsistent on here today, he had one bounce off his pads and go straight in the air. Probably should have been an interception. No one happened to catch it. There have been plays. There was a play on Saturday you and I talked about where he was open in a tight space and let the ball go right through his hands. Yep. We have not seen Kincaid be a consistent upper level threat. There have been flashes, multiple flashes, but it has not been often enough.
Yeah, he's made some really good catches. He's made some really good plays, but then there's ones where, like, you almost like start to look away because it should just be a routine catch, and then he drops it. And I think the rain is maybe playing a part of it. That drop on, I believe it was Saturday. There was no rain on Saturday, so we can't really use the excuse there. Maybe the rain played a part of it today. Maybe the pass wasn't as good as what we thought it was.
It did hit him literally in the pads today.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with something for the guy, but
he hasn't been good enough. That's the bottom line.
No.
And we're in day 4, so who cares? But through 4 days, Dalton Kincaid has not reached the bar of what the Bills need him to be. Bottom line.
I think he's shown enough flashes though that I'm not too concerned about it for the season yet. Like give him a few more days. If it still continues to be inconsistent like through preseason, then I might get concerned. But as of right now, he's shown enough where I think he can still be a really good playmaker.
These are tough shows to do because all we have to talk about is 4 days of practice, even though we're acknowledging that these 4 days of practice are almost totally irrelevant when we get into September and October. One other thing, not irrelevant, but kind of fun. So Deion Dawkins today caught a tackle eligible for a touchdown. He was wide open, loved it. He joked later that he's got more touchdowns than a couple of receivers on the team, which is not incorrect and a whole different discussion of the receivers. However, the reason we bring this up is that this continues a trend of Joe Brady calling trick plays at least once almost every practice. The Bills ran like a throwback screen a different day. Things we probably shouldn't be talking about, frankly, but the fact that the Bills are doing these kind of trick plays is more the point than what the plays actually are, because Joe Brady, a guy who seems to want to have a little more fun as the head coach, is keeping that in the playbook during practices.
Yeah, we talked earlier today at practice that Joe Brady is not really known for being creative. I mean, obviously last year we saw some lateral plays that came up huge in multiple games, but outside of that, we haven't really seen him run too much like trick plays. This kind of like feels a little Ben Johnson-y to me. Like he's trying to incorporate some more, I guess, fun stuff into the playbook, but also just stuff that's just going to keep a defense off balance. And I think that could be like, if the Bills really do go in that direction, if this isn't just like we're having fun at training camp, I think that could be a nice little notch in the playbook.
For the record, Ben Johnson, creative, yes. Fun, I'm not sure. I don't know if he's quite that guy.
Maybe not fun, but creative in his he brings up some trick plays.
For sure.
He's got a lot of trick plays in there. So in that aspect, maybe, but I can't tell yet if this is actually him making an attempt to put this in the playbook or just having some fun with the guys.
I don't feel like this. I don't know if we're going to see much of this during the season and he's going to actually put it in the playbook. I feel like it's training camp and, like you said, kind of keeping the defense on their toes and seeing what happens. I mean, maybe a Deion Dawkins touchdown will happen this year, but as far as the, trick plays and being a consistent thing, I don't know if I really see Joe Brady doing that, at least maybe early in the season. Maybe when he gets more comfortable and the Bills maybe win a few games, then he'll mix it up a little bit. But I don't know if I see this being like a trend this season.
At least not the plays we've seen in practice, because these are the ones that fans that are sitting in the stands can record and put on social media. So I don't think the Bills are doing this and hoping to be able to hide them from the Patriots down the road. Okay, one of the big stories out of this camp came courtesy of one of the interviews conducted by our own Rachel Liber. This is the Alec Anderson Fun Uncle soundbite, which has been everywhere. People have been talking about it as kind of an early referendum on who Joe Brady is going to be as a coach. And since it did originate right here in this room, essentially, I wanted to go back into it, explain some of the context behind it, and kind of give our takes on the takes that have, takes on takes of how this has come about and how this has become a somewhat viral thing. But start with how it came about. Rachel, is your interview. Yeah. You got the soundbite loaded up. Let me know when you want to play it, but lay out the context for Fun Uncle.
I mean, the context is this was literally question number 2, I think, of this sit down with Alec Anderson. Going into it, Alec Anderson has a personality and you don't know what you're going to say, but that was kind of the point of the interview, was hopefully you get something good out of it. And I just asked him, what's been the vibe with Joe Brady? It was day 1 of training camp. So I was like, day 1, what's been the vibe? And we can play right now. Here's the answer that everybody's probably seen at this point.
The vibe with Coach Brady is young and fresh, I think. I think he's coming in with this young energy in the sense that, not that Coach McDermott never gave us energy, gave us juice, but just like a different insight. It's kind of like having your uncle come over and he's a little bit younger than the older brother, and you're just going to have a good time. He's single, not that Joe Brady's single, but like you're going to be able to go out, get some ice cream, really do stuff that your parents wouldn't really allow you to do. And I think that's kind of the fun aspect that we're going to have. I think he's embracing everybody exactly for who they are and what they want to be, and I think that's going to drive the team a lot.
I feel like I'm going to have that clip memorized, like the script of it memorized in my head as many times as I've watched it and I've seen it. A lot of people are obviously taking it in the context of they can just do whatever they want and have fun. And that was when I posted this tweet, I did not really think that people were going to be mad at it at all. It was kind of like Joe Brady has been described as like, he's this young guy, he's relatable to the team. Like, this is a fun little snippet of like kind of some insight into that. And then obviously people took it the opposite direction and are not happy about it. That's why it kind of went viral. But to me, I just thought it was this is kind of been the vibe of the whole offseason. We talked about it on the sidelines today. Like, this isn't really anything new that we haven't heard. Maybe it's different words, different way it's described. But I mean, we've been told, or at least from the players' perspective, that Joe Brady's a new energy, he's a new guy. So like I said, did not expect it to go the direction that it went, but people were pretty upset about it.
I think Joe Brady reacted to it yesterday, I believe, on the Kay Adams show. And I think he kind of gave the best overview of it, that people need to look at who's talking and take that into context, that it's Alec Anderson. And he was like, you got to understand, he's a little bit different. He's a little bit crazy. He's just going to say whatever he wants to say. And you got to kind of take that into context, that just because he says I'm letting them do whatever they want doesn't mean I'm letting them do whatever they want. I still think that Anderson's kind of explanation of being the fun uncle is still a good like reference or whatever word I'm looking for here to describe Brady. But I think that people are reading into it a little bit too much, just trying to find something as we're early in training camp.
There's no doubt that Alec Anderson rides outside the guardrails as much as anybody when it comes to having conversations. He talked after Joe Brady's introduction press conference about the pucker factor was going to be reduced in terms of the Bills offense, and I need to explain that no further. I will say, though, that the fun uncle thing became viral for a reason. It stuck because Joe Brady, to this point, has seemed like he's heavy player friendly. Some of it is because I think the team has gone so far to promote everything that Sean McDermott did as the devil, as we talked about a couple shows ago, that if Sean McDermott's old school is bad, then Joe Brady being not old school, being player fun, should be good. And we've kind of pushed maybe the other direction. I think the other part of this too is that Joe Brady probably doesn't know who he wants to be. One of the things stood out to me in his first press conference. This is an exact sequence of comments. I'm going to paraphrase, but this is the order it went in. Joe Brady said, I want to be authentic. Then he said, I don't know what players coach is and what old school coach is. Then he followed that by explaining what being a player coach and an old school coach is, pretty much to the exact word that we would all think it is. And then he said, you know what? I want to be both. So what does he want to be? Does he want to be authentic? Does he not know what an old school players coach is? Or do you know what they are and you want to be both? And I think the answer is he really hasn't figured it out yet, which probably isn't appropriate for a guy in the first year of being a head coach. Does that mean that when he says, oh, it's Alec Anderson and he's a weird guy? Well, maybe, but so far, being the fun coach is something that everybody seems to see and buy into. And until you show us something else, we're going to continue to buy into it this way.
I think that's a good point, though, that like he doesn't even really know what he's still trying to figure it out. He's only had a limited number of practices actually on the field with this team. He's only had a limited number of meetings, 4 days at training camp. Like, you can't, I know he was an offensive coordinator before, but that's so much different, like vibe wise and responsibility wise than being a head coach. I think we have to give him a little bit more of a grace period to figure out who he is first before we criticize his choices.
True, but I will say that then don't sit there and tell me that, oh, it's just Alec Anderson.
That is a
you
good
got to
point.
show me. Now, to be fair, we've seen two different instances of him being a non-players coach. He took CJ Gardner-Johnson off his Twitch feed, live on his Twitch feed, so that was a thing. And then on Saturday's practice, we talked about it in the last show, DJ Moore was celebrating a first down, and Joe Brady said, hey, DJ Moore, finish, and told his number one receiver to run down the field and score a touchdown. So it's not like it hasn't happened. But when you go back to him saying that I'm the best thing that's happened for Keon Coleman on this team, even today's thing with I'm going to just put the guys in pads for half a practice for whatever reason we can't figure out. The overall has been fun uncle. And that's why fun uncle has stuck so far.
Yeah, it goes back to, I mean, the authenticity. We talked about this, I think, last week of day one and day two. It's so hard to decode like what he's trying, like you said, trying to convey. And I don't even know if we're going to figure that out by the end of this season either. So I think the fun uncle, I feel like it's accurate in the sense of, because we've seen the flashes of Joe Brady as, okay, this is a 36-year-old guy who's relating to these players, but then at the same time, he's doing the things that you would expect of a coach. It's hard to tell what, like you said, I think Joe Brady is not confused, but just doesn't know what he wants to be. And so he's kind of putting out all these fillers in the media. And of course, this is the one that sticks because this is the one that people aren't happy with. But I mean,
it also sticks because it's the wildest one. You know, if someone had said, I guess that the other end could have been that, no, Joe Brady, boy, he's in the locker room cracking the whip and telling guys. I mean, that could have come out of Alec Anderson's mouth in theory. It did not. But again, until I always say you don't find out about a head coach for real until they lose 2 games in a row. We're far away from that. So we really don't know who Joe Brady's going to be. Right, exactly. Yeah, it could be, Houston and Detroit. It could be, could be week 2.
It could be end of week 2.
All right, Rach, let's quickly talk about your interview with Tyler Bass today. This one will probably be less controversial.
Yeah, not really controversial at all. Tyler Bass is the only kicker currently on the Bills roster, and obviously came off an injury. He missed the entire season last year. So I sat down with him, talked about kind of his comeback, even though he says he doesn't really see it as a comeback story this year. And then I asked him, do you feel any pressure being the only kicker in the room? And then you're coming off an injury. So yeah, I had a good conversation with him about just his thoughts this year.
There's always a sense of pressure just in the nature of the business, but for me, just kind of taking a seat back last year and it kind of getting taken from me, I just have a greater sense of awareness of what's going on, just the gratitude for it, the excitement for it. But yeah, there's always pressure to it, but I'm excited to go out and put my best foot forward. I've trained really hard this whole year, so for me, it's kind of like I finally have an opportunity to kind of do what I love to do again, and that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, I told him too. I mean, he seemed very mentally, he said he was at peace with, injury last year, kind of having to watch from the sidelines, and just, he used that phrase a lot, at peace. And I asked him too, is that something that you've kind of had to mature into, from rookie season to now? And he was like, absolutely. I've grown so much, but I feel like as a kicker, you kind of just have to be at peace with a lot of things, as far as obviously in the situations on the field when the game-winning field goal's on the line, or you're, an injury and you're watching from the sideline. So it was a cool conversation. It seems like his mental game has really evolved from the last year. So he's seems like he's going to have a pretty successful run. I mean, he's the only kicker on the team, so kind of has to at this point. So we'll see.
Look for more on that on Instagram, Facebook, all around, and also on RochesterFirst.com. Okay, time for turkey burgers here from practice number 4. Caleb, you can go first.
I'm going to go with D. Alford as one of my first ones. I think he made quite a few really nice plays. He was in the slot kind of nickel area early in practice for 7-on-7s in the red zone. Made a good breakup. I believe it was Kyle Allen that threw the ball. Broke on a good ball towards Latu. Broke on a good slant route, got in there, and then he had another one, pass breakup in the back of the end zone. This one was from Josh Allen towards Keon Coleman, and he just kind of made a diving bat down. I think he might have been able to get his hands on it for a pick, but just at least got the ball down. So he made a couple nice plays, and he's looked all right all camp so far.
I'm going to give my first one to Dawson Knox. Had a pass from, I think it was Josh Allen, I'm pretty sure. He went up for it, grabbed it with one hand. On the way down, I think it was DeMar Hamlin, punched it out, and then Knox came back and grabbed it, completed the pass. So it was a pretty nice play. So there's my turkey burger for that play.
TJ Parker is my first one. We had the first edition of one of my favorite drills, one-on-one O-line, D-line. Now it was Chase Lunt, who's not one of the high-level tackles in this team, but he is a draft pick. And Parker whooped him with some wiggle, too, with some athleticism. So I was encouraged about how easily Parker got around the edge on that particular play. Caleb?
I'm going to go back to the secondary. Sam Franklin, again in 7-on-7s in the red zone with Kyle Allen at quarterback. He had back of the end zone. Kyle Allen put some zip on a ball to Jackson Hawes, and Franklin was able to get a hand on it. And then again, an 11-on-11, still with Kyle Allen at quarterback. He had another nice breakup. He did get beat by Kincaid against Josh Allen, but it was a perfect ball right in the breadbasket. There really wasn't much separation. So I think that was more of a good ball from Allen than a bad play from Franklin.
I will say I saw Sam Franklin look bad on a route, just was in the wrong spot. The Bills, I don't think, want him to be a regular corner, but
no,
they can play hurts.
So. Yeah.
Or safety. Rach?
My second one is DJ Moore. I think we've given one, I don't know if you guys did on Saturday, but at least the first 2 days we gave him a turkey burger each day.
I think we did.
I mean,
I believe so.
It's well deserved.
He might
had
be
a good
4
camp
for 4.
so
Yeah,
far.
he might be 4 for 4.
But it was Josh Allen just scrambled for a bit. DJ Moore got himself open, caught it right in the back of the end zone, kind of was just hanging out there for a second. It was a nice play, nice grab. So DJ Moore.
Davison Igbinosun for me, locking up Josh Palmer. We talked about it earlier. Caleb, last one?
I got Cole Bishop. He had a couple... He was stuck to Dawson Knox. One breakup in the back of the end zone and then one on the left-hand sideline. He was all over Knox all practice.
I think I've got all mine, so Thad, your last
my last one, believe it or not, backup quarterback Shane Buechele with a really nice feathery throw very late in practice to Skinner back of the end zone. We have crushed the backup quarterbacks, deservedly so, but today it was a good play.
He had a good pass right before that too to Trent Sherfield. I think it was a better route than it was throw, but 2 touchdowns in a row to end practice.
We will take it from the backup quarterbacks. Finally, some autographs today. Khalil Shakir. This is him answering somebody's phone, by the way.
Hello. It's Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, so he actually picked up Everybody thought it was hilarious because it was. Not a lot of autographs today because of the rain, as you might expect. Jalen Kilgore was one of the rookies who was out there for quite a while as well. He's actually pretty talkative. We're going to hear from him hopefully pretty soon. All right. That's going to do it for this edition of Bill's Camp Day Recap. Thanks very much for watching. For Rachel and Caleb, I'm Thad. We'll see you again after tomorrow's practice on Tuesday. Catch you later.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.